The Paranormal View. The Paranormal View. The Paranormal View. Time now for the Paranormal View. The Paranormal View on the Para X Radio Network with your host, Henry Foister, Craig Rupp, and Jeffrey Gould. The Paranormal View.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my sensor light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man or something. It looks like a man. I don't know what it was, just that it ran across the yard.
Okay. You've had problems in the neighborhood before?
Yeah, my dog was killed here just recently. I don't know what it was. Whatever it is, it's running. I couldn't catch it if I was going to chase it, but whatever it was standing up. I'm out here looking through the window now and I don't see anything. I don't want to go outside. Jesus Christ, you better...
Sure.
Deal.
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right...
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Oh, and the guy is on foot.
I don't know what... It's a big... real big person. That's all I can say.
Okay, but it is a person.
Yeah, I'd say it was a person or somebody really big. But he's all in black.
Is he a black male or a white male? Did you actually see whether, or was he just wearing black?
He's all black and he's big. He is big.
Welcome everybody to the Paranormal View right here on the Para X Radio Network. And as you can tell, tonight we have a guest that will be talking about Bigfoot. But I want to welcome everybody here tonight, not just here in the chat room, but from around the world for being here with us and listening. We appreciate each and every one of you. And thank you for being here. Tonight we have with us Craig Rupp and Jeffrey Gould. And
hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
And our guest is... excuse me, I will be coughing some tonight, so just don't worry about it. I'll be okay. Our guest is Joedy Cook, and he is the author of Traces of the Grassman. So we're going to be talking with him tonight, and not only is he going to be talking about Bigfoot, but we might get some questions thrown in from UFOs and from regular paranormal investigations, because he seems to have done everything. So we want to welcome tonight Joedy Cook with us.
How you doing?
Welcome, Joedy.
How's it going?
Going good. Going good.
That was an interesting opening clip. All I can think of is that is not how you want Harry and the Hendersons to come visit.
You know what? I've heard that 911 call, and I don't know. I don't know if it's a Bigfoot or what. I mean, the guy never mentions anything that it has hair, that there's a smell, that it looks like an ape, anything. He doesn't. He says it's a man. It's a big man. That's all he says. And everybody says, "Oh, it's a Bigfoot. It's a Bigfoot." And there's not one thing in that 911 call that says it's a Bigfoot.
Yep.
He doesn't even describe the thing as a Bigfoot. And so I don't know. I mean, I kind of don't. Give too much to that 911 call, because it doesn't, like I said, to me it doesn't prove anything. All the guy says is something big in his backyard and it's black and stuff, but crap, that could be anything.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for him to say, and it looks like it's covered with hair, but if it's in the dark, it would, hair, it would look black.
No, he states that it came through the yard and the light came on, the sensor light, so he's able to see it. And it's looking. I mean, he's able to see it's looking right at him, and he states that in the 911 call. But like I said, he doesn't say anything that looks like an ape. It has hair. All he says is it's a big man wearing black, and it's looking right at him. And obviously, if it looked like a big ape or something like that, or a monster or whatever, I mean, he would have sat there and said, my God, this thing's a monster, and things. So, I don't know. I mean, the BFRO was like really hyped on that for like the longest time, and it's just like, I wouldn't even touch it because to me, it doesn't prove anything.
True.
Yeah.
But it makes for interesting comments.
Oh yeah. It does. I mean, the whole 911 call is interesting. I just kind of wish you could sit there and said, "Oh my God, it looks like an ape."
Well,
Joedy,
I thought I was on the wrong show, Henry. You threw me a curve with that opening. You didn't tell us.
really? Well, sometimes you have to be surprised.
No, that was good. I like it.
Joedy, I think one of the first things, I guess, let's go back to the start of it and find out what actually got you started into the paranormal.
Yeah, the actual paranormal itself. I mean, I was doing Bigfoot research for close to 20 years. Prior to that, I was a UFO investigator, and there weren't a whole lot of stuff going on in the field of crypto. So I decided to get into the paranormal field. I had a lot of friends that were in it, and I found it really interesting. There's a lot of neat stuff out there, and one thing I noticed, I mean, there's a lot of people in the paranormal field doing a lot of cryptid stuff now. So I mean, it's starting to intertwine, and the whole field on Bigfoot. I mean, it's probably, I would honestly say it's probably the most backstabbing field there is, out there, other than, the UFO stuff and the paranormal field. I mean, the Bigfoot stuff, it's just, everybody's out to get that 15 minutes of fame. Everybody's out there to, want to be the first one to catch Bigfoot or find Bigfoot to make money off of it, when, like I said, it's a really backstabbing field. I tell people, don't get into it, really, seriously, because it's a lot of grief involved in it, because there's a lot of people that's out there screwing the field up.
So essentially, when it comes to Bigfoot, there's a lot of heels involved.
There's a lot of what?
Heels, sorry.
Yeah.
It's funnier in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff always makes these little quips like that, so you have to be aware of him.
Oh, okay.
Jody, tell us about your first sighting. I guess it was in Michigan.
Find Bigfoot to make money off of it. Wait a minute. Yeah, sorry about that. That was me. Sorry.
Yeah.
It was in Michigan. I was, this is one of the early years when I was in the Army, and we were up at Camp Grayling, which is a reserve base for American and Canadian troops to go do training up there together. And Camp Grayling, has had a lot of history of Bigfoot sightings, a lot of history of UFOs and stuff like that up there. And we were going off road one night, and it was July. It was about 8:30 in the evening. It was still light out, and we were going off road to go down the hill, get onto the other side of the road a little bit quicker. And we were going down through the tree line, and the tree line kept getting a lot thicker. So we stopped, and we were in a Ford Blazers at the time. And like I said, we didn't see it at first. We didn't even see it until it moved. And when we stopped to back the vehicle up, that's when we saw it. It moved, and it just went from left to right, and we made perfect eye contact with this thing. Saw the whole thing completely in detail. It was probably, I'm estimating, 15 feet away from us, maybe. Yeah, I mean, it was close. And like I said, he blended in so well with the tree line, and like I said, we didn't even see him there until he moved. So, but I mean, the very muscular body, reddish color hair, very human face, very human nose, very strong brow, strong chin, deep black eyes, long arms, long fingers, broad chest, and the thing I remember more about it is that if you ever seen a dog that had mange, that's what it looked like. That, I mean, it was kind of like that, you know. But yeah, it's just, you know, there was no smell, you know, when we saw it or anything. And you know, you know, I wasn't even into Bigfoot at the time. Even when I saw it, you know, I didn't get into the Bigfoot stuff until a few years afterwards. You know, so I mean, you know, I'm sorry.
I thought it was kind of funny the way you described there. I guess there was a private in the back. It was kind of.
Oh yeah, there was a private. Well, I was talking to someone else about this. He was flipping because there was 4 of us in the vehicle, and he was just, you know, flipping and stuff, and he had his weapon with him and stuff, and yeah, he was just, you know, this little guy was terrified. You know, and we were inside the vehicle. I mean, if he wanted to get in and get us, he could have, you know, but he just, you know, I think we scared him more than he scared us. You know,
you mentioned. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was saying you mentioned. I take it your windows were up.
No, it was summertime. The windows were down.
Okay, and yet, because usually all of the most of the encounters of which I've read and researched was a very very noticeable odor involved with Bigfoot when they're walking around, because I guess they don't have enough streams or something to bathe in or whatever. So you didn't actually smell anything. You guess you found a clean one. Or?
No, you know what it is. What I'm thinking is that, you know, we were just so overwhelmed with awe on what we saw, and this is the only way I can, you know, think the reason why is this. You know, we were just so much focused on it, you know, that it wasn't going to come and eat us. Then, you know, then if there was a smell, you know. But yeah, that was just one, you know, one thing that, you know, there was no smell, you know. And I know the other guys, like I said, there was 4 of us total. You know, no one ever mentioned anything about a spell. I mean, we didn't even talk about it. You know, even when we went back to the 𝘬𝘓 area, you know, we all decided, you know, we're not going to say nothing. You know, we're not going to say nothing to nobody. You know, a few days prior to that, there was 2 captains that seen one, you know, and they got a lot of grief and flack, you know, about it, and joked with and stuff like that. So we weren't going to, you know, say anything, you know, about our sighting and stuff. And I haven't said anything about it for like years. And I only told like one person, that was Linda Moulton Howe, was like the only person that I ever told that sighting to. And I mentioned it, you know, in my new book, Traces of the Grassman. And then I talked about it, you know, after the book came out, but I really never ever mentioned it, because it's, you know, it's one of these things, you know, when there's a researcher doing in the field and then he says he got a sighting, you know, a lot of people frown on that, you know, but my sighting was way before I got into the Bigfoot field. So, you know.
And you did have other people there to
Yeah. There was, like I said, there was 3 other guys. Yeah. Besides myself, you know, that seen this thing.
Now, you've been doing this for 20 years, Joedy. Now, I realize, as far as I know, there's been no DNA found, but what is your opinion? What do you think the Sasquatch is?
Well, there is DNA. I mean, they've got DNA of an unknown species. Okay. You know, Ohio State University actually did some work, and we had a piece of flesh, actual piece of flesh that had hair on it, where a Quaker minister was plowing his field, and this thing was on the inside of the fence line where he was watching him, and he stopped and looked at it, and the thing went over the fence and got its leg caught on the fence. And the Quaker minister knew a woman that a friend of mine knew from, you know, the church up there, and that's how we found about it. And we went out there and talked to him, and he took us out there, and that's when we found the piece of flesh, you know, with the hair that was stuck on the fence line. And you know, we gave it to Dr. Fehrenbach. Well, sightings, to show sightings, actually gave it to Dr. Fehrenbach to get checked at Ohio State University, along with some other hair. And yeah, it came back of a, you know, unknown species. So, and there's other hair, you know, pieces of hair out there, which is considered, you can consider DNA, you know, of that came back of an unknown species.
Okay, interesting.
I want to go ahead and let everybody know that if you have questions for Joedy, you can private chat them to Craig, Jeff, or myself, and we'll get those right over to him. So I should be getting a whole lot of questions in here tonight.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hopefully we will.
Hear that, folks? Bring them on.
Yeah. But as far as what Bigfoot is, I believe him to be a species of between man and ape, an off branch, because, he has human traits and he has ape traits. I mean, if you look at the pattern film, it has a buttocks. That's a human trait. The foot's a human trait. It walks erect. Chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, they don't walk erect because they don't have butts. They don't have the buttock muscles to keep their body erect. It's got to be something between a man and ape. Just something that came off the branch there. But as far as a North American ape itself, I don't think that's. I never thought that at all.
Ferry in the chat room actually just, I don't know if it was a specific question or just a random thought about Bigfoot having attacked anyone. And it reminded me of a story that Teddy Roosevelt used to tell. You aware of that story? Yeah,
I'm familiar with it. It was just a story that was told to Teddy Roosevelt. It was no one that he actually knew. It was a secondhand story that he talked about in his book. And they had been documented reports of, Bigfoot attacking humans. Like, here in Ohio, when they did a Monster Quest show, they talked about the young woman was out there with her father and, the creature attacked her father and things. But like I said, there's kind of a backstory to that, where basically it's just, he kind of cut her out of the will and she kind of got mad about it, and they think maybe that she killed him and blamed it on the big hairy monster, because they've had sightings, because it was something new that was going around the area about this big hairy monster. So like I said, there's kind of a backstory with that, but there's really not a whole lot of proof, physical evidence that anything has ever taken place where someone was actually taken to the hospital due to or died to a actual Bigfoot attack, other than what you would find in Native American folklore. But one thing is the difference between like an Eastern Bigfoot and a Western Bigfoot. They are extremely more aggressive in the east of the Rockies, because if you look at the history of all the attacks, majority of them have taken place east of the Rockies. And out west, they're a lot bigger, but they're a lot more docile. They try to stay away from man. They try to stay away from, human contact. They don't show aggression. But towards the east, they do. They have people have had rocks thrown at them, sticks thrown at them, grunts and things like that. So there is some history, on the east side going back. Even Lee Garrison, when he was a Viking, that when he just was landed in Canada, which was a little bit north of Quebec. He talks about them attacking them. Seminole Indians, they talk about attacks by them. And here in Ohio, we had the Shawnee Indians, and the Shawnee called them the Big Blue Giants, and they talk about it in their legend, actually fighting for turf, fighting for food with these things, and the Cherokee Indians that were here, everybody knows the legend of the boogeyman, and where the boogeyman comes by is that the Cherokee Indians did a dance called the Booger Dance, and basically what it was a wild man of the woods, which was the Sasquatch, would dance with the children and tell the children, if you didn't listen to your parents, I'm going to come at night, grab you, put you in a basket, take you home and eat you. And so that's, as a kid, we always heard about, the boogeyman's going to get you, and that's what it comes back to, through Native American folklore. So yeah, there's a lot of history about it. But as far as an actual attack, I can't tell you I've ever heard anybody actually was attacked by Bigfoot.
Well, I do know that a lot of people are unaware that pretty much every single state in the continent has a Bigfoot. In fact, I had a friend in some of the forested areas of Wharton, New Jersey, see one across a small lake, just standing there staring at him.
Yeah, Hawaii is the only state that has no history of Bigfoot sightings.
It's tough to swim there.
In the I'm sorry?
It's tough to swim there.
Yeah. In the United States, I mean, Ohio's ranked, number 3 of all the sightings in the, United States. And I mean, every single continent has something, even in Africa, in Kenya, they call it X. And, everybody in Africa knows what a gorilla looks like. They're very familiar with what a gorilla looks like. And this thing doesn't look like a gorilla. It looks more like a hairy man. And like I said, they don't have a name for it, but they call it X. And, like I said, every single culture and every single continent, have something. Even the Europeans even have, stories about the wild man.
Now, it's interesting. When I was very, very young, I was at a summer camp for several summers in a row near Eaglesmere, Pennsylvania. And we had a very strange encounter out on one of the camping trips in which my sleeping bag and the sleeping bag of 2 of my other people in the tent were physically rolled out of the tent. And we didn't smell, I don't remember smelling anything. I don't remember any screams or hollers or anything. But when we had the courage to peek out of our sleeping bags, when we were several feet away from the tent now, we could see these large hulking beasts down the trail being not reflected, but silhouetted in the moonlight. And we were just freaked out the entire night. Some older counselors thought, later tried saying that it was them, but they realized that we were talking about a different campsite. Says, we were scaring the younger kids. And it wasn't until years later that I found out, what do you mean? There's a book, I can't remember the title, but one of the chapters is the Pennsylvania effect. I'm like, wait, what? And I began thinking, what if that's what I encountered?
Yeah, Pennsylvania has a large history of Bigfoot sightings, and they even have, one of the largest, werewolf sightings in Pennsylvania also, or dogman, sightings. Pennsylvania is extremely active, state. Even though there's a lot of bear, in Pennsylvania and stuff, but it's extremely active with a lot of different paranormal stuff, a lot of cryptid stuff up there. I mean, they've got a couple lakes that's got, they're active right now with lake monster sightings and stuff and things, and there's a lot of interesting, neat paranormal stuff. It's a spooky state. It really is. It is. I mean, I've been there, and it's got a lot of paranormal history to it.
Now, I know that why is the Bigfoot creature with so many different names, like the Ohio Grassman, Bigfoot, Sasquatch? Is there a difference in their descriptions and stuff, or is it just they give them different names for the areas?
It's just different names that they get for the area. There's been 3-toed tracks. There've been 4-toed tracks. There've been 5-toed tracks that were found. There's basically, you can say there's 3 different species of it here in the States. Okay, and most researchers will go with me on this. You have your skunk ape species, and then you have your typical Bigfoot, which is a much larger creature, and then you have your other type of Bigfoot, which is just not, I don't want to say smaller, but just it's not as big. It's more stockier. And those are the three different species that they look at that there is. Like the skunk ape and the falcon monster is kind of a different species of Bigfoot because the hair's much longer, they're much smaller. They have a very, very extreme odor to them. The hair color is very similar, but when you talk about regular, Sasquatch, they're much larger, shorter hair. The color is basically a black or a brown. But when you get like on the eastern side and you talk about the Bigfoot here, which is smaller and stockier, the hair is more of a brownish red color. And like I said, a lot of researchers, think that there's probably, like I said, about 3 species of it. And we've been getting reports of even some that has a snout, to them. And I think that's where a lot of these people are getting, what they want to say, werewolf sightings, is from these Bigfoot that has like a protrude snout to it. And that's very common here in Ohio.
We got a question from the chat room. It's from Reverend Tim, who, if you stay tuned a little bit later on, sometime right after the first break probably, we'll have the second part of his interview that Patty did with the Spotlight reporter. So stay tuned. But his question is, there's a book out called Silent Invasion, and it's about UFO flaps and Bigfoot sightings that have been recorded all at the same time. Do you feel that there's any correlation?
I do not believe there is a UFO and Bigfoot connection whatsoever. Like I said, I was doing UFO investigations for 5 years before I did the Bigfoot stuff, and I won't even touch a Bigfoot report or a UFO report that combines both of them together. I won't even touch it because I don't believe in it. I really don't. I mean, I'm a strong believer in the existence of UFOs. I really do. But I just don't think that a Sasquatch or Bigfoot is alien connected, or even where it could be mind controlled by an alien to do whatever type. There's been a lot of reports out there where people have seen UFOs and seen Bigfoot. They could have just been happened to be there
at the same time.
Yeah, at the same time, and things. But I don't, like I said, I don't think there's any connection there. And I'm not trying to offend anyone. I mean, that's my belief. I could be wrong. And I always complain about people not looking at the other possibilities. And I really should look at that possibility. But I just, like I said, I just don't think there's any connection there.
That was one of my questions to you, Joedy. I was at a conference in Butler, Pennsylvania, and I am from Pennsylvania, and I thank you for what you said about the state. Yeah, I'll be lurking around outside after the show.
Yeah. Hey, there's a lot of researchers up there that I know, and I will get you can send me an email and I'll get you in touch with these guys, and they're really fantastic people.
Now, have you ever?
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Just on a feel free to let me know when I can talk. I'll just sit right over. Well,
that was one of my questions. I was at a conference in Butler, Pennsylvania, and the director for MUFON told a story about a Bigfoot getting shot by a woman who then saw it beamed up into a UFO. I was going to ask you.
Let me tell you something about MUFON, okay?
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
No, MUFON. I would not trust MUFON if they sat and told me that aliens exist. Okay? Now, MUFON is, their sole purpose is to lie to you about the truth and stop any information being released. Okay? Especially their STAR team. And all the new high echelon in MUFON were all former CIA people. Okay? There's so much CIA influence in MUFON right now that you're not going to get anything. Now, I've got a friend that's got actual video of the MUFON, I'm trying to think of the right word, department in his area throwing away files and original photographs into a dumpster. And he's got it on video, and he goes to the dumpster and he pulls all this stuff out, and he's videoing it, all these original photographs, all these original files. And why would MUFON do that? Because they don't want, because, they got all this government influence in them, and they don't want the truth to come out. And the STAR team will make you look like the biggest butt in front of everybody and embarrass you and make you out to be a liar. They will call your work. They will interview your friends. They will interview your third grade teacher. They will do anything to prove that you're a liar. Okay, and there's a real good show that was on Discovery Channel called UFO Over the Earth. Okay, which was a perfect example showing you what the extreme levels that MUFON will go through to prove that you're a liar. And I tell everybody, do not trust MUFON. Do not belong to MUFON. Stay away from them because they're liars. They're absolute liars. And I don't know that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be going off. I just.
No, once you said they work for the government, then it certainly.
Oh yeah, they're liars. Do your research. You'll find out all the high people in MUFON were former government people who had either worked or were associated with the CIA, and that's proven, documented fact. So, and like I said, I wouldn't touch them for nothing in the world, because especially the STAR team, if you got a UFO sighting or anything like that, and you got something good proof, don't ever let MUFON get a hold of it, because they'll make you out to be an absolute liar. Because that's the whole sole purpose of the STAR team, is to prove that whatever evidence that was given to them can be debunked. And if that means they make you out to be a crazy person, they will do that to debunk it.
I think what we'll do right now is take a quick break. We've already shot past what we usually stop at. But keep sending those questions in, and we'll get them right over to Joedy as soon as we come back from break. I do want to thank everybody for listening from around the world. We got listeners tonight from the U.S., UK, Australia, Germany, and Finland. So welcome everybody, and hope you enjoy the Paranormal View tonight. We're going to be taking probably somewhere close to about 8 or 9 minute break, and that's because I'll be playing the Spotlight Report during that time also. So Craig, won't you take us out to break? How's that sound?
Sounds good. As Henry said, I'd like to thank everybody that's listening, and especially everybody that's in the chat room week after week. We really appreciate it. You're listening to the Paranormal View on the ParaX Radio Network.
Don't go away. The Paranormal View will be right back.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Paranormal View right here on the ParaX Radio Network. We have tonight with us Joedy Cook, who is author and Bigfoot researcher. And I've got questions everywhere coming up. So have you guys got some too? Or
I have some, but nothing from the chat room.
Oh, okay. I have another one here from Tim. And are you back with us?
Yeah, I keep forgetting to unmute my mic after the break.
Oh,
and I'll be talking. I'm like, why are they not listening to me?
Joedy, you back with us, right?
Joedy?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Just want to make sure.
I
got
did want to wish Joedy a happy birthday last week.
Oh, thank you.
I just found out you and my aunt Penny share April 1st birthday, but she just turned 90, so I think you're a little younger.
another question from Tim. It's also about the Bigfoot sightings and places where paranormal activity also seem to happen at the same time. Is there any correlation with that, or coincidence, or?
Yeah, I don't have any reports of, where paranormal is happening at the time. I mean, there's places, I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but there's one particular place in Pennsylvania that is, I think it's considered hallowed ground and stuff, that had some Bigfoot sightings and stuff. But I mean, you take like where Gettysburg and stuff is, which is very heavily wooded area up towards there, by where the killing fields were. And, there's been no Bigfoot reports over there. And I don't know, why, but I mean, I've had reports of a lot of sightings in cemeteries. And one of our researchers, one of the females, was went up to a cemetery here in Ohio, and you have to like go up these real long concrete steps to get to this on top of the hill where this cemetery is. So she got up to the top of the hill, and she just wanted to take a picture that she was going to use for a background for something, and she snapped the picture, and she heard something, and she looked, and she's seeing this creature just like digging in the ground. And I mean, she took off, but she actually got it in the picture. And that's what's so unique about it, because she didn't notice it when she got the picture. And you can see it. I mean, the body, the head, the ears, the mouth, the long arms, where it's digging in the ground in the cemetery. And it could be a Bigfoot, or it could be a ghost teddy bear or something. I mean, but it's whatever it was is pretty big and things. But I've got reports, where people have seen them in cemeteries, and I don't know if it's if there's any connection there or not. But as far as like any other paranormal activity going on and stuff, I don't know, to be honest with you. I haven't really heard anything other than the sightings in cemeteries.
Now, Bob from the chat room had a question about Ohio. Did you answer that about Bigfoot sightings?
No, not yet.
I heard you talk about Pennsylvania. Where in Ohio are the most commonly places?
It's up in the northeastern part of the state. Actually, where Salt Fork State Park is, there's an area, a very large area they call the Sasquatch Triangle, where there's been a lot of sightings up there. Adams County, Scioto County is probably, I'd say, about the second hottest spot, because that's where I've been getting a lot of reports, especially from hunters who have seen these things out there. And quite a few law enforcement agencies in Scioto and Adams County, I've been getting reports from them. So, I say it's the eastern part of the state.
Okay, thank you, Joey.
Thank you.
Now, oddly enough, before we went, I'm getting a weird echo here. Before we went to break, the Reverend Tim Shaw, who is obviously not listening to himself yet on the radio, had asked a question regarding if you've done any research on the Jersey Devil.
No, actually, what we're doing, Ken Gerhardt and myself, along with Lee Helms and I can't think of Raven's Mendel. We're putting a thing together called Cryptid Seekers, and basically what that is that we're taking people who want to go on cryptid investigations. We're going all across the country doing this. We're going to be doing our first ones in June. We're going to be doing the Mothman at Point Pleasant, West Virginia. We're going to go down to Texas, do the Chupacabra. We're going to Michigan to do the Michigan Dogman. We're going to Raystown, Pennsylvania, do the Raytown Lake Monster. We are going to be going to Jersey, or Upper New York State to do the Jersey Devil.
Well, the Jersey Devil's actually very South Jersey down in the Pine Barrens.
Well, yeah, and I'm not real familiar where it's at. I got a friend that lives in upstate New York, and they've been getting sightings of it, what they call the Jersey Devil there, and but we're going all over. We're doing Pudwedgies out in Indiana and stuff, and our website is going to be up in about a week.
It's already up. CryptoRaven.com, Cryptid Seekers?
Yeah, you can go on CryptoRaven.com and see it on there, but our actual website, CryptidSeekers.com, will be up in about a week.
Ah.
And, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, it's breaking up a little bit and getting an echo. But, like I said, if anyone's interested in going, there is a fee to go. It's going to be about $200, but we provide the food, and you get a handbook that King Gerhardt and I put together. You get a T-shirt and a certificate showing you completed the course. There's going to be classroom stuff involved in there along with the investigation and stuff. It's going to be fun. And like there's another organization out there that does it, but they do strictly Bigfoot stuff, and they charge $500 a person to go looking for Bigfoot. But what we do is that we go out looking for all the different cryptid stuff, and we're going to be doing some UFO stuff. We're going to be doing some paranormal stuff also, and things. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday event. And it's going to be neat. I mean, when this thing gets going. And like I said, be looking for the website, or if anybody's interested, they can contact me at OC4BFS@hotmail.com, which is the Ohio Center for Bigfoot Studies, is my email. And I'll get back with you on any information that you need.
Now, you had mentioned investigations. There's a lot of people at times they don't have large groups going out doing Sasquatch hunting, as it were. But one of the books I read, and I'm a big cryptozoologist fan myself, indicated that a lot of activity can sometimes be generated. They mentioned a group that was out, and all of a sudden, like the screams and cries of the Bigfoot were really more than they expected, and they surmised the possibility that since two of the women in the group were, pardon the expression, menstruating, that might have been something that triggered their kind of going off on the deep end, as it were.
Yeah, it's when there's more activity going on in the field, they seem to get more active and stuff, because I think they find it somewhat of a threat because they're very territorial. And like I said, I've been out in the field with, where we've been deep in the woods. And we've had sticks and rocks thrown at us, and we have had grunts, where basically, they were trying to push us out of the area, and you can hear them move and everything. And, and you do get smells, but I think they're extremely territorial, and if they don't want you there, they're going to get you out, and, when it comes like the tree knocking and stuff, a lot of researchers and myself are kind of thinking that it's not really tree knocking, it's more of a chest pounding, which makes more sense, and that's where you get back into, the possibility of being, part 8 and things. But as far as like call blasting and things like that, I've never been on an investigation where I got any response from call blasting, except whenever I used children laughing, children crying, children playing, and children talking. That's where I got a lot of activity, because for some reason, I think they understand the innocence of the child's voice, and they will investigate it. But see, like when you do call blasting, like they'll get out there and they'll start playing all these different Bigfoot sounds and or alleged Bigfoot screams and stuff. My problem with that is, these things may have a different language. Like humans, we have French, we have English, we have German. In different parts of the country, here in the United States, we You go down to Louisiana, I mean, you got that strong Cajun, accent, especially in like in Alabama and stuff. And for a northerner, it's really hard to understand what they're saying, even though they're speaking the King's English, And when you start playing these different Bigfoot sounds, they don't know if it could be to them French, or it could be, another language. They may not know what it is, or it could be, coyotes or whatever, and that's, when you do call blasting, like I said, I've always found it, and a lot of different research will tell you, when you use children laughing, children crying, children, talking, stuff like that, they've been getting a lot of activity, from that.
In your book, you talk about the history of Bigfoot in Ohio, and your research and examines the possibility of where they have descended from. Won't you give us a little background on that?
Well, I think, Bigfoot is something that's always been here. Like I said, I always think it is some type of species between man and ape. Some people believe that it's a possibility it could be, an evolved Gigantopithecus, or some type of Neanderthal and stuff. But like I said, my whole thing it's just a branch off of, like I said, of man and ape. It has to be, a human is a primate, just like a gorilla, chimpanzee, and orangutan is. It's just we just happen to be the smarter of the species. We're able to communicate, use tools, and but there's really no difference between us. I mean, a chimpanzee. I mean, there's like a half of gene difference between us and them. It's like your third cousin. And chimpanzee is extremely more human than all the other primates other than human. And like I said, I just really think it's just something that's always been here. It's just something that's just been hidden. The Native Americans, actually think it's an actual tribe of Indians. So is that the part you're referring to in the book?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they could have, from way back, they've been around forever. Another question.
When you look at through history, going in any culture, it goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years, so it could be another species of man for all we know, so it's until we find one and actually ever, and if mainstream science will actually classify it for what it really is, other than something that it's not, so they're not proven to be wrong, we'll never know.
Another question that I've got is, do you ever, when you're out in the field, find evidence where there might be 2 or 3 or more, where they live in a together kind of, or is it always just one?
No, I've gotten reports of more than one. It's like I got this call a few months ago from a member of the Parks and Recreation Division of the ODNR at another park here in Ohio, and he was on Amazon, and he was looking at some books, and he saw my book and stuff, so he started reading it and stuff, and he contacted me and said, I really like your book and stuff, and can I talk to you about something? And I said, yeah. And he goes, we're this particular park, he told me what he worked at and stuff, and there's a rock quarry in this park, and quite a few rangers have been seeing, a mother, father, and like a child, or 2 or 3 adults together in this particular area, and it's been going on for the last 3 years in this park. And and he was telling me, they're told straight up, you're not to talk about it, you're not even to report it. You see something, you just turn away, you don't tell anybody, and that's what's going on here in, the ODNR. And what was kind of ironic about that is right after Monster Quest came out, there was a magazine that went to every single state park in Ohio, and it was called the Ohio State Park, and they talked about all the paranormal places in Ohio, and they talked about Bigfoot being in a park, and they acknowledged that Bigfoot is real and Bigfoot exists in the state of Ohio. Well, the Division of Wildlife contacted the Division of Parks and Recreation and told them they are to remove that book. And they had to remove that book from, and this is a book that you find when you go into the hotel or the lodge or whatever, and it's the book that's right there and next to your bed on the counter there. And they were told to remove it. Even though it states in there, they the Ohio State Park acknowledged that there's something here. So it's a big lie, and secret that's going on with that, because I know that they know that there's something there, and I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that it might hurt somebody. I think it's the fact that it's going to scare people away and they're going to lose money from people going to the parks, which is not true, because Salt Fork Park, since Monster Quest came out, has always been in the black each year because of Monster Quest. I mean, that place is packed every single weekend, even in the winter, because people want to go up there to see the grass man.
Now, Joedy, what type of equipment do you take out? Now, the paranormal investigators, we take recorders and EMF detectors. What do you use when you go out on when you get a call about a sighting?
I take a camera, a digital camera, take a recorder, an audio recorder, a video recorder. If it's just something where I can get right to it. But if I'm going to be out in the field, I have a DVR system that I would set up with remote cameras that go up to like 500 feet, out different areas that has infrared cameras where I'm able to see at night. And we'll set it in 4 different locations around the base camp. We'll set up trail cams. We'll set bait traps out by the cameras. We'll take some EMF stuff out there because for some reason, when Bigfoot's attracted to limestone for some reason, just like ghosts are attracted to limestone. When you have something that's made out of limestone, you have a lot of paranormal activity, and for some reason, if there's a lot of limestone around, you get a lot of Bigfoot activity. And I don't know if limestone puts off something, to attract them like it does, in the paranormal field. But we'll bring them out just to see if there's any limestone in the area, because it will pick it up.
Have you ever captured? I've heard screams over the internet. Have you personally ever caught any of these screams on audio?
Oh yeah. I've got some hoots, hooping, sounds. I've got one scream that we got, and it was actually by accident and stuff. Where it came out, we were testing the recorder, and the recorder was on, and we're talking, and this ungodly scream just came in. It was just echoed, and we actually got it, and it was, it put the hair on the back of my head up, and it's just, if it wasn't for the fact that we were testing our equipment, we probably would never have got it. But a lot of people get a lot of different sounds, but coyotes and owls, they make very similar, yapping sounds. But I really think that these creatures mimic animals to communicate with one another in the field at night if they know that there's activity going on out there. Because one thing I've noticed when there's a lot of activity, a lot of the animals seem to be communicating. So I don't know. It's it's just weird. But until you actually get one actually screen, I mean, all the stuff that you get, and it's all circumstantial stuff. You have to have something to compare it to. I don't know if you remember Mutual Omaha. Well, when he, back in the 70s when he went to Nepal, to do the Abominable Snowman, that whole purpose was to debunk it. I mean, it was just to debunk it. And they got a piece of the hair, and they tested the hair, and it came up, they said it was a goat's hair of a goat. Well, what they're finding out now is that all the Yeti hair that they're finding is very, very similar to goat hair and structure. But it's not goat hair. It still comes up of something of an unknown species that they have nothing in the catalog that matches to it. And I thought that was kind of ironic, that this hair that they said was goat hair. So they had probably a real piece of hair and things. But yeah, it's just you don't need a whole lot of equipment out there. Just a camera would do, and some type of audio device. And like my new book that's coming out, it's called The Beginner's Field Guide to Bigfoot Research. And I talk about that, about the equipment. You don't have to go out and buy all this stuff, to do research with. I mean, thermal imaging, okay, give you an example. Thermal imaging is good in the paranormal field. It's not good in the Bigfoot field, okay? Because and I know this from being in Iraq using thermal imaging equipment and stuff. I mean, it depends on what type of grade it is, and that the fact that when you're out in the woods, you're just going to get a heat signature, and that's it. You're not really going to get a full figure of what it is unless you're up close to it, and it doesn't prove that it's anything out there. So I tell people, don't waste your time with thermal imaging and waste your money on thermal imaging, because it really, unless you're up there on it, and even though if you get a figure of a man, it doesn't prove what it is anyhow. It's just a human shape is all you're getting, because, I mean, the difference between commercial thermal imaging and military thermal imaging is a big, big difference. It's a that's why you can't buy military thermal imaging in the civilian world. For the simple fact that it's military thermal imaging is so much better. Now, when I talk about night vision, I tell people if you buy night vision, buy something that you would get from like the Probast or Cabela's or something like that. Don't buy this stuff coming out Eastern Bloc countries like Russia and Yugoslavia and East Germany and stuff like that, because military grade night vision has to be calibrated. And if it's not calibrated, it will blind you. And when you start seeing honeycombs in the night vision goggles, it needs to be calibrated. And the only people that can calibrate military grade night vision gear is military people. You can't take it to a civilian place to get calibrated correctly, because civilian night vision and military night vision is totally different. They can sit there and tell you that it's the same thing, but I'm telling you it's not. It's the way it's being calibrated. And that's why I tell people, stay away from Eastern Bloc night vision, even though it's $250. That's fine. You'll go blind, because half that stuff's not been calibrated when it got over here in the first place. Oh. And, and like I said, I talk about a lot of this stuff in my new book. And I tell you how to do investigations, how to collect evidence. I talk about, what I did was, for a full month, I called every single state and asked, about laws if a body is found. Okay. And one thing I found out, that if a body is ever found, okay, of a Bigfoot, you hear guys saying, well, I'll cut its head off, or I'll cut its feet off, or hands, or something like that to prove I got evidence. That's fine. You want to do that, fine, but you're going to go to prison for mutilating an animal corpse, and you will get prosecuted. Okay? And plus, if it's on federal land, if it's on state land, if it's on county land, city land, and you remove it, that's theft, and you're going to get prosecuted. Okay? Plain and simple. And in state, there's not really a whole lot of land that's not owned by county, state, city, or federal, property. And even though, you may have a farm that you own with 175 acres of wooded area, and you got a deed for it, but, in reality, buddy, it's not really yours. Even though you own the property, it's not yours. Because
well, of course, you didn't.
Huh?
Essentially, all property taxes is rent.
Rent, exactly. And people don't understand that. You're paying rent for property that somebody's telling you that belongs to you, but it's not really yours. So, and I talk about, well, okay, you find a body. What do? Well, don't call the police, because, the police aren't going to really know what the hell to do with it. You need to call, if I always tell people, get friends with your vet. Go out drinking with this guy. Go out and do stuff with him and stuff like that. So if you ever find a body, that's the person you want to call, is a certified doctor, veterinarian that can sit there and, and identify that this thing is not a human, And, I tell people, if you find a body, photograph it from head to toe, take at least 100 different photographs of this thing, take hair samples from different parts of the body, take fingernail clippings, I say, if it's still freshly dead, I tell everybody, carry a syringe, like a bio kit, a syringe and test tubes. If you can draw blood before it's congealed, get the blood, then I tell people, take red tape, it off, showing that it's bio, get swab the mouth, swab the nose, swab the ears, photograph them, the teeth, eyes, everything. And one thing I also mentioned, take paper with you, take an ink pad and an ink roller, ink the hands, the feet, put the paper up to it, get all the dermal edges and lifelines, all that stuff in the footprint and the handprint. You got documented stuff there. And I said, with one thing you might want to do is have a scalpel and a pair of pliers, in your kit. Remove a tooth, like a back molar or something like that, because a tooth will carry DNA longer than any other part of the body. And I tell people, you've got that DNA, proof right there. And then when you call the authorities, always understand you're dealing with a government agency, okay? And don't ever trust the government. That's my biggest thing. Don't trust the government or any agency like that. What I would do is I would have one or two different people hidden out in the field with a video camera while you're bringing them in, showing them the body, and document them removing the body. So you have that physical proof. And when you have all this stuff and they come back and say, hey, we don't have it, we never saw it, you're lying. Well, I got video of you coming in, and taking the body. And I talk about this in my new book, but, don't mutilate the body, respect it, because you're going to go to jail if you do. And you're going to go to jail if you decide you're going to take it and put it in the freezer somewhere, because if they find out you took it off federal land or state land, buddy, your butt's going to jail. It's the same thing like removing a flower from a state park. If they want to, they can prosecute you for it.
So
sorry, I didn't mean to rattle there.
No worries. It's a preach to the choir with me. So when is your new book scheduled to come out?
Actually, it will be out in May. I'll be at the Ohio Bigfoot Conference the 13th, 14th, and 15th of May, and up at Salt Fork, and I'll have it up there. Well, I'm hoping to have it in time for that one, but it'll be out in May. But you'll be able to get it through Amazon.
Yeah, it's not on Amazon yet.
Yeah. No, it's not on Amazon. It won't be on Amazon until it actually gets released. But it's the Beginner's Field Guide to Bigfoot Research.
I think what we're going to do right now is take another quick break, and because time's just flying right on by, and give my little voice box a little more of a rest. But I do appreciate everybody for being here and listening tonight. Great show. And I'm going to let Jeffrey take us out on the break. How's that sound?
No problem, everyone. Thank you very much for listening to the Paranormal View on parax.com, for which we thank and appreciate your listening. We'll be right back after this break. So stay tuned, or it'll be really quiet where you are.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Paranormal View right here on the Parax Radio Network with Craig Rupp, Jeffrey Gould, and Henry Foister. We are shooting now toward the last 40 minutes or so of the show, and we have Joedy Cook on with us talking about Bigfoot, and it's been a great show, and we got all kinds of other good things still coming up, good information for you of where you can get websites, and I know Jeff, he's got some great stuff. If you want to find about the Paranormal View, you can go to his site, and he has all our shows, and he has writings up on the whole show. So it's real interesting. He does a real good job on that. So
Yes,
Joedy,
kudos, Jeff.
yeah, he does a great job on it. I thank him and Craig both. They do great jobs. And our own Spotlight reporter, Patty Lynham, is doing a terrific job. She's getting some good people to interview for the Spotlight. And, of course, Tim's always a good interview.
Great job, Patty.
I want to, in your book, you was talking about the first, I guess what they was saying was the first Bigfoot sighting, and you had a name, Boss Chess Man?
Bojessman.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Tell us about that.
What that is there was a author here in Ohio by the name of William Vanderbilt, and he's a famous Ohio author back in the late 1800s, going all the way into the early 1900s, and he wrote a couple books about the history of Ohio and stuff, and he wrote a book called A Buckeye Boyhood, and it was about him growing up in Ohio in the 1830s. And he was talking about where they were going to Utica, which is a little bit, which is like north of Columbus, Ohio. And there was like a road, which is like Old Vine Street now, went from Cincinnati to Columbus. And when he was talking about when he got to Utica, he was just amazed about, seeing all the wildlife, black panthers, he mentions, the red flying squirrel, the different, raptor birds and stuff, that were all in the state here. And he talks about a creature that everybody in the area called the Bojessman. And so he's seen this thing, and he describes it between a gorilla and Sinbad's Old Man of the Mountain. And the name is what the local Indian tribes, local Indians called the Bojessmen, and what the Indians were trying to say were Bushmen, and where because it had dark hair and it had dark skin, and they knew that the slaves that were here in the United States were from where they were from, they were Bushmen, and that's how they described this thing. It was nothing disrespectful, or anything. It's like out west where the Apaches called them Buffalo Soldiers, and because they had no name for them. So like I said, it was nothing disrespectful. It's just their way of how they described it. But yeah, he talks about this thing in detail. Because the gorilla was discovered in the 1830s. And Sinbad's Old Man in the Mountain. If you ever read some of the old Sinbad stuff, it's a one-eyed hairy giant. So
when you say Sinbad, do you mean Sinbad as in Scheherazades Sinbad, or?
Yeah, Sinbad the Sailor.
Okay, yeah. I didn't think you meant the stand-up comedian, because I'm thinking.
No.
Joedy, I have a question from Kat in the chat room. She would like to know if you think that Bigfoot, Yeti, etc., might be a different subspecies of the same creature.
I think like the 𝘎𝘪𝘨 and the Yeti is probably more of a Gigantopithecus than an actual Bigfoot, but there's similarities, to them, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Is this, that's just, it's a complete species. I mean, it has to be another species of some type of man, because like I said, every single continent has them, but what a lot of researchers are honestly believing, and this is where you get into the scientific stuff. They really believe that the Yeti and the 𝘎𝘪𝘨 is probably an evolved Gigantopithecus, but it has the same style foot, 5 toes, but it has the I can't think what they call it. It's the break like apes have in their foot, which kind of makes it kind of unique. So I don't know. I'm kind of mixed about that, to be honest with you. I kind of want to say I think it's all the same species, but on the other hand, I want to say probably it's more Gigantopithecus. So I'm kind of mixed on it, to be honest with you.
Well, Kat also asked, and I think you may have actually touched on this before, if there was any effort being made to compare various DNA evidence from suspected Bigfoot sightings. Yeah,
there's a lot of different places out there that is doing that. There's a lot of research going on that's being privately funded. And believe it or not, the one thing I can honestly say good about Barack Obama is that he does have funding out there for paranormal and for Bigfoot. The money's there, but it's a very lengthy application to fill out to get funding. But like I said, the funding's there. He does believe in it. He believes in the paranormal. He believes in Bigfoot. So there are money out there if people want to apply for it for research and stuff. I don't know offhand if there's a national DNA base anywhere that's collecting it. I know, Dr. Fehrenbach, is doing it and things. But like I said, as far as that, I don't think so.
So, actually, Joedy Kim of Rain Radio was curious as to what your thoughts might be on Mothman being sighted before natural and unnatural events.
Yeah, the Mothman is really a neat case. If anybody has ever been to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, it is a very wicked place to be. I mean, when you go into that town, you feel it. I mean, you feel it. I mean, it's just it's scary. I mean, that what's there,
Or negative energy, you mean?
Yeah, it's something. It's something dark. Definitely something dark there.
I want to remind everybody that if you're not here in the chat room with us, no matter where you're listening from, you can come over to para-x.com, click on the live chat at the top of the page, and you'll be put in this chat room with all these wonderful people who are paranormally like-minded, and you'll be able to interact with us, ask questions of the guest, and you'll just have a wonderful time with all these wonderful people. Also, I want you to stay tuned tonight right after the Paranormal View for Joe and Tara Visions Radio. And tonight, let's see here, they have Matthew Kelly. They call him the Sandman. And it's about his attempts to capture EVPs at the Titanic site. And from what I understand, they have a lot of good things with that. So stay tuned for Joe and Tara right after the Paranormal View. You will really enjoy that. They have a great show also, as is all the shows here on Para X. Appreciate each and every one doing their shows. I'd like to know what area have you found the most evidence in?
Salt Fork, to be honest with you. Yeah, definitely Salt Fork.
And what kind of stuff have you found as far as evidence?
You know what? Let me rephrase that. I would honestly say either Wayne National Forest or Shawnee. You know, I got a lot of hair out of there. I got a lot of castings out there. And Adams County, I like I said, I've got the handprint that came out of there that the FBI actually looked at. And it came, I mean, you know, it had a lot of, you know, the dermal ridges and everything on there. And the FBI, when they looked at it, they actually think it is an actual handprint of a Sasquatch. You know, they're excited about it.
I have a question from Doug in the chat room. He'd like to know, where was the last sighting of Bigfoot and where?
In Ohio. Actually, Franklin County, back in January, a guy seen one go across his backyard, and they were three-toe prints, actually, which was kind of interesting. And that was the last one I've got from Ohio.
Now, you touched on this earlier a little bit. Now, here's the big question everybody's asking. Why haven't any bodies been found?
Well, you know, Mother Nature cleans up after herself. And if Mother Nature didn't, we would be walking around in piles and piles of bones, you know. And, you know, a deer can be gone within 5 days. You know, from, you know, all the different little animals that's been eating on it, you know, the body being scattered, you know, that, like I said, it just comes back to where, you know, Mother Nature cleans up after herself. You know, although, like I said, we would have, you know, tons of bones all around.
Now, in the chat room, Reverend Tim is pointing out that there was a sighting in Mercer County, Pennsylvania in February or early March.
I don't know anything about that one, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's what
I haven't heard. Yeah, I haven't heard about that one.
Well, looks like I'll have to look for it.
Yeah, I definitely like to get some more information on that.
Now, how much difference kind of is there of going out and investigating for a Bigfoot and doing a regular paranormal ghost investigation?
You know, it's both wait and see. You know, it depends if it's something that just happened just recently. You know, you're better off where you can find evidence a lot better. But you know, everything's by chance. I mean, you know, if you go out looking for Bigfoot, you go out looking for, you know, ghosts, you're gonna find it. You're gonna find something that, you know, I mean, when I say you're gonna find something, you're gonna find something that you think that's what it is, and it's not. You know, the problem is, you know, a lot of you have to be more skeptic than you are a believer when you go out and do research and things. You know, otherwise you're just, you know, every piece of evidence you're finding, you're going to sit there and think that it's Bigfoot.
Joedy, in October of 1967, Guy Patterson, Bluff Creek, he shot the famous video.
Yeah, the Patterson film.
Now, last I heard on his deathbed, he claimed that was fake.
No.
What have you heard? Is that real? Your opinion?
No, I mean Patterson never said on his deathbed that it was fake. He never said that. And that was a story that came out, and he never said it was fake. The Patterson film's real. It's 100% real, and if you look at the evidence, you can see that this thing is real. I mean, you can see, I've got some very good photographs that came off of the film, and you can see the tightness of the calf on the foot, or the ankle rather, tightening when this thing is walking. And look, 1967. Okay, you're going to fake something, okay, of a monster. Why would you do a female with big boobs? Okay, if you want to get something, get out there, be serious. Okay, 1967, women were able to vote, but you know what? They still weren't considered second-class citizens in this country. 1967. Women were to be home, having babies and cooking, and that's it. And that's how they were treated. Ask your mom about how she was treated in the workplace by bosses. Them women received sexual harassment on an everyday case, and stuff. Women were just not respected. So why would you do that? Why would you make a movie, a fake monster movie of a female? It doesn't make any sense, they just, Walt Disney and Universal both said in 1967 it would have cost them $50,000 at least to do that. And $50,000 in 1967 would be like $1 million today, and stuff. So there's just no way, Patterson faked it. Now, if you want to look at the backstory, the property was owned by Ray Wallace. Ray Wallace had his own little petting zoo, and he was a big Bigfoot fanatic. He actually owned the construction company where the I can't think of the guy's name, the one that's holding the cast he has glasses on, and he's where the Bigfoot was, first got big in the United States. Well, Ray Wallace owned that property, and he owned a construction company, and Ray Wallace also was the one that told Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin where to go find this Bigfoot at and stuff. And Ray Wallace was one of these people that was out for the dollar, and that's where everybody say, he faked everything, blah blah blah, and stuff. So it's hard saying, what the real truth is. But I mean, I'm a strong believer that it's 100% real.
Now, Bigfoot creatures, do they eat berries and roots and whatever, or are they meat eaters?
I think he's a meat eater. I mean, this thing, he's going to spend every waking hour, looking for food, and he's going to have a high calorie, definitely high calorie intake. And so he'll eat whatever he can get his hands on. And I've heard stories of where they eat, they've eaten deer and things like that. And I talk about in my book about deer kills, where they're finding just the livers ripped out of the deer, and that's it, because of the high protein. And they're finding tracks around. So anything's a possibility. He's going to eat. I'm sure the majority of his diet is probably leaves and scrubs and grass and things like that. And he'll eat fish and field mice and small rodents. And if he's able to get a deer, he's going to take a deer. Chimpanzees, they eat. They'll kill their own. They'll kill the babies and eat the babies. They're meat eaters. Gorillas, not real known to eat meat. But I'm sure if you're hungry enough, you're going to do it.
So when is the best time to actually go looking for one?
There's really no best time. Obviously summertime. But I mean, I get probably close enough reports in the winter as I do the summertime. I don't think they hibernate or anything like that. So probably your summertime will probably be the best time, I would say.
Now, do you think they run in like deer run in packs? Do you think they run in packs or solo or?
I think they're solo. I think majority of them are solo. You know, Grover Krantz had a theory, you know, where he called them rogue males, where they would travel the country looking for suitable mates, you know, looking for other groupings, you know, temporary to stay in, or, you know, until they get pushed out or something, which I believe it, you know, that, you know, his theory is probably correct.
Well, there is lots and lots of forests and wooded areas that they could be hid in forever. People would never see them. No,
there's parts of Ohio that, you know, man has never stepped foot on, you know, and there's parts of, you know, this world man has never stepped foot on, you know, and, you know, anything, I mean, you know, could hide, you know, out there. I mean, I strongly believe that, you know. You know, it's anything's possible, anything.
Well, now,
you know, not to me. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, did you ever see the one of the earlier episodes of the X-Files, which was theoretically a Bigfoot, and he had no idea what they were doing?
No, I've heard about that, but I've never seen it.
During that first season, I was still living in New Jersey, and Chris Carter came to a sci-fi conference or something, and I took the mic, and I literally went up and I said, are you ever thinking, oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't even Bigfoot, it was the Jersey Devil. And I asked him, I said, are you ever going to do something on the Jersey Devil? He says, well, we already did. I said, no, actually, you did nothing of the sort. And I pointed out all the distinctions that he got wrong. Don't think he was too happy. But I don't know if they actually, no, you know, it occurs to me, I don't think X-Files actually ever touched on Bigfoot itself. Huh.
No, I don't think they did. Yeah, I really don't think they did.
Well, now,
it would have been nice, though.
Yeah, really, seriously.
You also was a paranormal investigator. Do you still do paranormal investigations?
Oh, yeah, yeah. You know, I've been last few of them I've done in, you know, people's homes and stuff. Yeah, I find it very interesting. I love doing it. You know, it's interesting. It's, you know, it's enough to scare you. Yeah, I'm more, you know, I am. You know, I tell you, you know, I'm more afraid, you know, of the paranormal stuff than I am Bigfoot. You know, the thing about ghosts, you know, ghosts aren't going to hurt you unless it's a demon, but they can sure make you hurt yourself. You know, and at least Bigfoot, you know, it's a solid object you can at least try and get away from. You know, fight. You know, physically touch it and fight it if you had to. You know, but ghosts is, you know, that's another thing. You know.
Now, go ahead.
Now, when somebody calls you, Joedy, what steps do you take to investigate a Bigfoot sighting?
You know, if someone saw a sighting 3 years ago, you know, 5 hours away, I mean, I'm not going to go to it. I mean, because it's useless. You know, I mean, what I did in the past, you know, I wrote a letter to every single sheriff's department in Ohio, you know, just a basic letter, you know, telling them, you know, if you get a Bigfoot sighting, you know, don't laugh it off. Send it my way. You know, I'll talk to people about it, and you know, and it worked. You know, and that's how I got a lot of, you know, reports from people. You know, was because of that. You know, where they would call the police on something like that, and you know, the police would say, well, you know, call this guy here, or he deals with it. You know. So that's how I tell everybody, you know, don't be afraid to do it. Notify, you know, law enforcement agency, and tell. I mean, if they get it to, have them, pass the information off. Don't hesitate. I mean, you can get something. You can get some good information. That way.
So how many forest rangers and policemen's been out and reported sightings of them?
That I have, I probably got 22 different reports from law enforcement agencies, officers that have actually seen them, between regular law enforcement and park rangers.
I got a question from Joe from Visions Radio. He wants to know if when you go out on your investigations after Bigfoot, are you armed?
I carry a knife. I don't carry a gun. I tell people, don't carry a gun, because, if this is an endangered species, it doesn't matter, if it's an endangered species and you kill it, you can still, if they want, they can prosecute you just on the grounds. When it comes to wildlife, if it's an endangered species, they don't care if your life's in danger. It's an endangered species. And that's how they look at it. And I know it's hard to look at, but that's the truth. Here in Ohio, we have black bear, and it's endangered in Ohio. You can't hunt it. And there was a guy that got attacked by one, and he was a hunter, and he shot the thing, and he got a lot of grief from the Division of Wildlife for doing it. And he's like, well, you know what? My life is in danger. It doesn't matter. It's an endangered species. And black bear is not an endangered species, but in the state of Ohio, it's considered an endangered species because the population is low. So they don't care.
Well, now, do you still do conventions and speaking engagements?
Oh yeah. I've done. I actually. I'm trying to think. I got a couple of them coming up here, like in September and October. I'm going to be doing some. I'm not doing nothing at the Ohio Bigfoot Conference this year and stuff, but normally, I've been doing a lot of stuff at some paranormal conferences. And I've done a couple of the Bigfoot stuff at paranormal conferences.
Such as? Sorry.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just curious, what kind of conference are you planning on attending?
I'm with a management company, and he sets everything up. So he just sends me things saying, "Hey, we got this conference coming up." I know I got like Mid-South coming up, Scarefest. I think I'm going to be doing the Haunted Retreat down in the old Pittsburgh Hospital in Tennessee. I know those are in October.
You going back to Miami Town this year?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And
Well, that's a good one.
And you said you'd be attending the Ohio Bigfoot Conference in May?
Yeah, May at up at Salt Fork State Park. They're going to be about 500 to 700 people at that one. It's going to be a neat show.
See, so everybody can.
Now you said earlier. Oh, go ahead.
That's all right. Go ahead.
You said earlier if somebody called you 5 hours and so many years of a report. For listeners out there, how far are you willing to go to help someone out?
Well, no, is what I'm saying. I just use that as just to be blowing it there. Like you say, if it's just someone says, 5 years ago I was walking through the forest and I saw something, I smelled it, I wasn't sure what it was, and this is where I saw it at. I'll take the report, but, like I said, I'm not going to run out, 5 hours just to, you know, to do that. Now, last year, up in the Akron area, they've been a lot of, I want to say werewolf sightings is what they've been calling them, dogman sightings, and Akron, especially in one Metro Park district, Metro Park area. And Linda Goffrey, who's a author on a lot of dogmen books, actually was doing an investigation in about 2 miles away, on a different investigation. Now, I drove 5 miles, 16 hours after I got at 16 hours after the sighting. Now, when I talked to the Metro Park District about these werewolf sightings that they were having, their comment was, we don't like to talk about it. So they know there's something going on. And one of the rangers actually saw this thing, and he drew me a picture of it. And the track, I even got pictures of these tracks where they're kind of like human foot, but they have these extremely large claw marks. And there was like 168 of them, and they were in the snow, and they were freshly in the snow, and it was about 30 degrees out, so it wasn't the snow wasn't melting or anything like that. So he saw what he thought was a dog kneeling at the edge of the wood line that was probably about 40 yards away from him. And when he got into his patrol vehicle, he backed up and the headlights hit it, and that's when he said it stood up and walked off on its hind legs. But he described this thing as having a tail too, and he said it just looked like a German Shepherd, with human arms and human legs. But he said the head was extremely dog, and where the park was, where the 4 main roads like surround this park, people were seeing this thing run across the road, and I got a couple drawings from eyewitnesses, that seen this thing, and drew these pictures, and it's definitely your typical Howling Stark type werewolf, and
so like the Howling kind of.
Yeah,
werewolf?
like from the movie The Howling, yeah, and I mean it was interesting, and this guy was serious. I mean, he was serious, about his sighting. I mean, it scared him, and they were closing the park up like at 8 o'clock at night, and stuff. So they were, like I said, they were real serious about, something going on in that park.
Well, our time just shooting right on by. You guys got any other questions from the chat room?
No, none here.
I've let you guys talk quite a bit tonight, haven't I?
I know, I'm amazed.
Yeah.
You got a sore throat, Mark?
Thank you, Henry.
Well,
I won't name who, but one of the show hosts in the chat room points out, I was making a joke about it, and he says that's why I host my show alone.
Oh, is that what it is?
But what was I going to say? I was going to say something. No, I was finding some of those.
Does he also run a bar?
Yeah, you might say that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Well, we hope you had a chance to rest your voice tonight, Henry.
Excuse me.
Putting the links to his books into the chat room and to the closest thing to cryptid seekers into the chat room. These are all going to be on my report page as well. Do you mind people knowing your Facebook, Joedy?
Yeah, it's Joedy Cook, Facebook. Anybody can contact me through there.
Cool. And I'm also putting into the chat room the all-new cafepress.com/realbadgershop, which has anything you'd want to wear. It'll have the Paranormal View logo and the links to the show and such like that.
We got these really nice Cryptid Seeker T-shirts. This says Cryptid Seekers Team Member, which is black and white, which is really awesome looking. And we got a couple different T-shirts out there, for women. and stuff. And one of them it's these two werewolf handprints covering the boobs, and it says to keep warm, sleep with a werewolf and stuff. And it's kind of interesting, some of these designs that we came up with.
Well, they say, it's better to be lycanthropic than misanthropic.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Now, if you haven't had a chance to go over to Jeff's site and check stuff out, do so. You'll really like it. Also, our podcasts will be put up. If I don't get them done tonight, they will be first thing in the morning.
Oh, last week it was like within like an hour and a half or something. I was like, wow, that's a personal best.
No, I know. And you can listen to them. You can go to theparanormalview.com. You can get our podcasts through there, or you can go to the Paranormal View at podomatic.com. You can listen to them there. Or if you go up to the top of the page in ParaX chat room, you can also use the on-demand button and listen to our shows from there also. So with that, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and let Joedy give you his site addresses, how to get a hold of him, things that he's got coming up, and different things like that. And then I'll let Jeff give you all of his before we jump off.
Yeah, my email address is OC4BFS@hotmail.com, which stands for the Ohio Center for Bigfoot Studies. The website is OC4BFS.com. It's a site that we're still working on it, but it's up. But like I said, if you want to get any information about the Cryptid Seeker stuff or anything like that, definitely send me an email or Facebook me. Definitely send me a friend request. And I definitely will get back with everyone. Definitely. So yeah, definitely keep in touch.
All right, excellent. And I do want you to stay on after we get off. We'll talk with you for a few minutes too.
Okay.
Jeff, you want to give out all your information now?
Yeah, my website is jeffgould.net, which is GEOFFGOULD.net. And if you add a slash and a 2011PNV.htm, that's my Paranormal View page, at which you can listen to all the podcasts that Henry posts up. I embed them on the page. And you can click on the date, which will put you on its own report page. So you can get a sort of little rundown of what we're talking about and such, as well as the embedded stuff. There will also be links to tonight's show page to Jody's two Bigfoot books of the Grassman and such, which I look forward to getting eventually. So, yay, I'm going to have a busy week coming up. I got student film rehearsals and shoots and stuff like that there. Wish I had some paying work. But other than that, there you go. Yay, Henry.
All right. Okay. As time's almost done, I do want to thank everybody tonight for being here and everyone for listening from around the world. Next week, coming up, I believe Craig's going to be live at Antietam with John Sable.
Yes, we're going to do a ghost excavation, and not only John's going to be there, but a lot of interesting people. You will enjoy it.
Good, good. So it should be a great show from Antietam. May get some interesting EVPs and stuff right on the air. You never can tell.
Never know.
With that, we're going to go ahead and jump off. I want to thank Joedy for being on with us tonight.
Anytime. Thank you.
Great show.
Thank you, Joedy.
And
Thank you very much.
Stay tuned for Joe and Tara with Visions Radio. And we will see you next week. And hopefully I'll be feeling a whole lot better. So until then, this is Henry Foister.
Craig Rupp.
Jeffrey Gould.
And we will see you next week, same time. Till then, good night, everybody.
Night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.